Hello, Math 96. Happy Wednesday. So today you're going to need a separate piece of paper. We're going to do a pre-lesson for factoring sum and difference of cubes. So if you could please take out a piece of paper and write down the few review items that I'm going to go over. And then later on, you're going to also need your white notebook during this video. There's no essential question and there's no homework for tonight. Okay, so this is going to be a review of cube roots for our next math lesson. So first I'm going to review square roots. Excuse me. I'm going to review square roots with you, which you should be familiar with. So square root of 25 is 5, and the reason for that is because 5 times 5 is 25. The reason is because there's a pair of 5s that 25 can be factored to. And then you should know the square root of 100 is 10, and that's because there's a pair of 10s that this 100 can be factored into, right? So we should be familiar with these. So the square root of 64, 8 times 8 is 64, right? So square root of 64 is 8. And then the one students often forget about, which you're going to need, the square root of 1 is 1, okay? We don't often go over the square root of 1 until we get into Algebra 2, so I just wanted to put that in there. Now, so the idea here obviously is that there's a pair, right? A pair of 5s, a pair of 10s, a pair of 8s, a pair of 1s. Whoops, that doesn't want to work. Yes, I know that. There we go. Sorry about that. So when we get into cubed roots with the little 3 up here, all right? So when we're doing cubed roots, we're looking for 3 of the same number that we can factor 8 into. So we need 3 triple. So isn't 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So the cubed root of 8 is 2 because there's 3 of the 2's that you can factor 8 into. And how about 27? Isn't 27 3 times 3 is 9? And then that 9, 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27. So the cubed root of 27 is 3. Now you may not be as familiar with 64. You may think of 8 times 8. But if you go 4 times 4 is 16, times another 4, you could do that on a calculator, right? So 4 times 4 is equal to 16 times another 4. That would be equal to 64. And there you have 1, 2, 3 4s. So the cubed root of 64 is 4. Don't be confused with what we did up here. The square root of 64 is 8. But the cubed root of 64 is 4. You have to be careful on that one. And then 125 is 5 times 5 is 25. Right? 5 times 5 is 25. And if you multiply that by another 5, you get 125. So there's 3 5s that you could break 125 into. So the cubed root of 125 is 5. And then 1 is obviously 1 times 1 times 1. So the cubed root of 1 is also 1. So this idea of cubed roots is important for the next math lesson that we're going to do. So if I ask you what's the cubed root of 8, the answer would be 2. If I asked you what the cubed root of 27 is, the answer would be 3. We need to be familiar with those. Okay, so the next thing I want you to do is to grab your notebook and look at something that I put in your notebook. So grab your notebook. Please look at page 4 in your white notebook. Open up your white notebook to page 4. Okay, so one thing is this chart I printed, and you can always use it. And I'm gonna, on the next page, I blew up the little columns. So on the next slide that I show you, I just want to talk about square roots and cube roots. And then I also want to say that you do not fill in this part of the chart. I often have students who try and fill that all in. So don't fill that in. I mean, obviously we could, but the math that we use in this class is the ones that I've pre-printed for you. Okay, so just all of these are what you should be familiar with how to work with, okay, during math class. So do not fill the empty spots in. Okay, so here I blew up a little bit of the page. So like I said, I want to talk about square root and cube root, and to make them bigger, I put them over here because I know that's hard to see. So here's a nice little just setup for you. If you don't know what the square root of 49 is, right here, then you can just look on the chart and the answer is 7. If you don't know what the square root of 81 is, you can look at the chart and it's 9. And then most specifically for tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday's lesson, you can use this chart to find the cube roots. So like if you didn't know what the cube root of 64 is, even though we went over it, it's 4. So the only one I didn't go over was the cube root of 216, and that's worth 6, because 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. So you are going to have to be familiar with this cube root chart. And now you know where it is on page 4 of your white note-taking guide. We will not be using the square roots. The next lesson we'll only be using the cubed root one, okay? All right, one last thing. Please make sure that you've already gone in to the Triad number 5 digital workbook. Actually click on it, insert your name on it. That's very important because as I add slides, your workbook has to be open. So please make sure you've done that for us, okay? Thank you. That's all I have for you guys today. Have a great day.